Hey, welcome. I'm trying something a little new, a little different. I'm going to show you how I do my meal planning for the week because we all have to eat every night. Some of us have families that we need to feed and it's hard. It's not easy trying to find the right way to plan meals and cook each night. I know that a lot of people just wait till 5 o'clock and then they're trying to scramble, but this is kind of how I do it.
So after scrolling on Pinterest for quite a while, I came up with 3 or 4 recipes I wanted to do this week. I already knew I wanted to do enchiladas because I had some leftover enchilada meat. So I started with Thursday because I'm working late that night, so my family's just going to do pizza that night. And then I thought, well, what night? Yeah, Wednesday. Wednesday was a good night. Go ahead and just do chicken with mushroom sauce. And then Tuesday and Monday were pretty even, so I went ahead and filled those in with the other 2 meals I'd picked: cheeseburger soup and a Parmesan chicken sheet pan dinner. I knew that on Friday we were possibly going to be out of town, so I went ahead and chose to eat out that day and have leftovers. So the first meal is enchiladas, and this is the meat I had left over, and I only had to buy a couple things to go with it. So it was a pretty simple meal that I can pull together quickly on a weeknight, although I'm doing it on Sunday, but if I wanted to do it on a weeknight, it would work out pretty well. I've never tried this recipe, but I found it on Pinterest and I thought it looked simple, easy, and that maybe all my family would eat it. I think that's the biggest challenge, is finding something everybody will like. The cheeseburger soup recipe is also something I've never done before, so we will see, but it had just a few basic recipes. Of course, there's seasonings, or a few basic ingredients. There's seasonings and things that will go in the soup as well. I almost forgot I will need cream for this soup as well. This last recipe is also from Pinterest that I've never tried before. I had to buy the big thing of chicken thighs. They didn't have any smaller ones, so I'll have to use the rest of the chicken thighs for something else. These are the basic ingredients. Add a few seasonings, and I'm going to also add one of these kit salads to go with it. The first meal I made this week was the enchiladas. I took my leftover meat, I warmed it up in a saucepan with a little extra sauce. Basically, I'm just filling the shells. I didn't even warm up the shells or anything. Just fill them, put a little cheese in, put them in a pan, put sauce on the top, more cheese on the top, and that's it. And I baked them covered because I like the cheese to be melted but not crispy. These are great served with sour cream. The second recipe I did for the week was the Parmesan chicken sheet pan dinner, and it was pretty simple. I basically used the same ingredients over and over again. It needed garlic, it called for olive oil. I used avocado oil, Parmesan, and you could use shredded. I just used the powder kind, and then salt and pepper. Pretty much were the 3 ingredients I used for the potatoes. I used it for the chicken. The only difference is when I did the chicken, I did add, well, it called for breadcrumbs, but I didn't have breadcrumbs, and I had garlic Triscuit crackers. So I went ahead and blended those up and made like a breadcrumby mixture, and I put those with the chicken. One thing I liked about this recipe is you didn't have to batter the chicken breasts. I just tossed all the stuff together and put a little bit of the toppings on extra when I put it on the pan, but it was pretty simple. I did use the pre-sliced chicken breasts that were sliced to make them thinner, which I would suggest. I would not use the full chicken breast because they cook so unevenly. The green beans, I didn't want them to get overdone in the oven, so I put them in a separate baking sheet and I cooked them a little less time than I did the chicken and the potatoes. I would say this one was a hit. Everybody liked it. It was easy, it had good flavor, and I think I'll add it to the rotation on our meal plan. The next recipe I tried was the cheeseburger soup. I browned the meat in a frying pan, but then I realized afterwards I could have just browned it in the saucepan I was going to make the soup in, and I added extra liquid because I didn't want it to be too thick. Sometimes I'm not very good at looking at the recipe instructions before I start, and it had told me to add the cream cheese and the tomato paste and spices before I added the liquid, but I kind of did it backwards, so it got a little bit chunky, but I was able to just whip that in after it had warmed up thoroughly. Since I had added the extra broth, I decided to add extra cream to make it more creamy. And then I added the shredded cheese as well. And I decided to go ahead and add some frozen hash browns, because the soup just kind of seemed too, like it didn't have enough in it. And it was a low carb recipe, so I took some out for me. But I put hash browns in for the rest of my family just to fill the soup a little bit. Overall, it was okay. Not my favorite. I don't know if I'll do it again. The last recipe I made this week was pretty good. I ended up making it for lunch because we ended up going out to eat a different night than I was planning, and I don't know, it just didn't work out to have it this week during dinner time. But anyway, I added the seasonings to the bag of chicken thighs, and it soaked or marinated for a few minutes. And then when it was marinating, I prepped the mushrooms and garlic for the sauce. I don't know if you guys have used this trick before of using one of those boiled egg slicers to cut mushrooms, but it works really well for mushrooms, olives, strawberries, all sorts of things. So I put the marinated chicken in a hot pan and let it cook pretty well for about 5 to 8 minutes on each side. But some of the pieces were bigger than others, so I had to kind of do it in 2 batches. I was able to take some out before I took the other ones out. And I must have forgotten to record a few parts of this because I totally forgot to show adding the garlic and the spices with the mushrooms, but you kind of saute those all together. And then I forgot to show adding the cream and the Parmesan. You do that next, let it kind of simmer and thicken. Then you add your chicken back to the sauce. And that's pretty much it. It's ready to plate and serve. And this one was a good one. I'd do this one again. So overall, the week went pretty good.